Well, it's Essendon versus the GWS Giants on Thursday night from Marvel Stadium. It could get pretty ugly. We're going to go through everything you need to know about the upcoming match in this video.
We've always had the passion and the iron will. No one doubts the courage of the boys from Windy Hill.
So it's Essendon versus the GWS Giants. And we're going to need to play like superheroes to even get close in this game. I actually think this could be the lowest Essendon home crowd since the top-up years in 2016 when we had all our players out with the drug thing. It is a Thursday night match against the lowest supported team. We're coming off a terrible performance. Season's over with a lot of injuries. You'd think this might struggle to get 20,000. Does this match deserve to be in prime time? Well, you would have to say, based on Essendon's performances this year, absolutely not. We've been very, very disappointing, and this is going to be a very, very tough match for us to be competitive in due to a combination of poor form and player availability, as well as the fact that GWS are highly motivated to win this match given their position on the ladder. It is a match they do need to win. It is worth noting that we did beat the GWS Giants last time we played them. It was probably our best win of last year. We won by 20 points and we kept GWS to only the 62 points.
Those were the good old days.
It was a game where Redmond kicked a nice big long goal that got everyone out of their seats. I remember that, and it was a really, really good win about halfway through the year before the typical season collapse from Essendon. So looking at where the teams are on the ladder, GWS are 7th on the ladder with 11 wins, a percentage of 113. And that's the other scary thing about this game is that percentage is important for the GWS Giants. They've got a couple of teams that they can catch on percentage. Hawthorn, a percentage of 117. Fremantle, percentage of 109. They've got a 4% gap on them. Gold Coast 121. So there's a few teams that they could catch, and it could come down to percentage. So they're probably going to be looking for a big win here. We are on 6 wins from 16 games and a percentage of 76, coming off a terrible performance against Richmond. So just looking at the GWS team from last week, they didn't suffer any injuries. There has been some suggestion that Stringer might get rested. That could be a smart move from them. Stringer does have a history of, soft tissue injuries. He's been injured a little bit this year, of course. There's also been some suggestion that Hogan, who has a bit of a foot complaint, could get rested as well. I don't think they will rest both of those. I think if they rest Hogan, Stringer plays. If they rest Stringer, Hogan plays. They don't really want to flirt with their form too much on this. They should win and win comfortably. But at the end of the day, they do need to win the game. And I think I can't see both those players missing, but one of them may get rested. Hogan may be the one with a bit of a minor foot issue, so he could be the one to miss the match. We'll see there. Other than that, I don't think there'll be too many changes to their team. What will the changes with the Essendon team be? Well, obviously, Nic Martin, unfortunately, with that ACL injury, and that's just a tragedy. He won't come back until, at least halfway through next year. Will be out of the side. Setterfield, with a pretty serious foot injury, is out of the side as well. I'm also predicting Goldstein will come out simply because it's a 5-day break. I think I'm just trying to read Brad Scott's mind here as to how he would be thinking. You're taking a 37-year-old playing, on a 5-day rest. I think it's a good opportunity to rest him and bring Vigo Vicentini in for a game here. Ben Hobbs is also going to miss with a groin injury. I think that's just a short-term injury, but we'll see what happens. But he will also be out of the side. So I think Goldstein comes out, Martin comes out, Setterfield comes out. So Vigo in. I'm predicting Perkins to come back into the side and get a reprieve. He's probably lucky in some respects that Martin and Setterfield are out. It kind of sort of opens up the door to bring him back in. He played pretty well in the reserves. He had the 20 possessions and was one of our better players. And I'm also predicting Saad El Houli, who's been pretty good for 2 weeks in a row now in the VFL, to come into the side. So Vigo, Perkins, El Houli to come into the side. I'm just predicting Shield to come in as well for Hobbs. If Vigo is in and Goldstein is out, that means that obviously that's an experienced player that's out. So I think it's probably a reasonable thing just to bring another experienced player in, just so we're not too young. We've got obviously a lot of young players in there. So Shield to come in for Hobbs as well would be my prediction. What do you guys think? Let me know if you would make any other changes. I know people do get emotional saying, we'll just, sack half the team and this sort of thing. Look, realistically, I think those are probably the type of changes that we'd be looking for in this game. If you do like the content I provide here, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It doesn't cost any money. It only takes 1 second to do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well, because if you do that, you'll be notified as soon as I post a video and you won't miss anything. So as you can see here from a lot of the key stats posted on the screen, GWS shade Essendon and are better in most of the key areas. They're actually not an elite team according to Champion data, at least not at the moment. They do have a bit of a history over the last few years of playing really well in the last, couple of months of the season and making a bit of a run. So maybe they are coming home strong. They're sort of ranking 6th to 8th in most categories this year. And that, as you can see, they're better than Essendon in most things. There are a couple of important differences, though, that are quite specific. Scores from turnover differential. We always talk about the orange tsunami. GWS are third in the competition at plus 10.7. Essendon are 15th at minus 15.2. That's a net difference of about 4 goals. Also, scores from the defensive half differential. That's kind of GWS's staple, the orange tsunami. They do like to run and switch play. That's, I love it. I actually love watching the way they play. I wished we played similarly. It's not just a matter of being attacking, but it's actually attacking in a smart way. It's one of the reasons I think they've had success against Geelong in recent times. They're able to hold possession, zigzag across the ground. They're not afraid to switch up play from one wing to the other as they're bringing the ball out of their defensive half. Their scores from defensive half differential is plus 16.8, which is second in the competition. We are minus 8.9. We do struggle as well to stop opposition scores coming out of defence, and that is one of GWS's strengths. So what do we really want out of this game? Well, so many players were just disappointing last week, not just the younger players, but also many of the senior players as well. Archie Roberts was very good. He was probably a shining light for us. Some of the younger players were a little bit down. I thought Angus Clark had probably a bit of a weaker game, players like that. And even some of the senior players, I was disappointed with Redmond, who just doesn't really seem to have come on after signing that big contract a couple of years ago. And all up, it was just a really disappointing performance. But I think under the roof, I do expect us to play better. And I think when you've had a really, really bad performance like that, it's a bit of a rocket, for a lot of the players. And also when you're embarrassed as well, I think that is a bit of a rocket. I think the players are kind of dispirited and lacking in confidence. But certainly under the roof, where we do tend to play our best football, you'd expect a better skill level. I'm not expecting a win, obviously, but I would expect with a lot of players having an opportunity, some players playing for their careers perhaps, and a lot of other players playing for really good opportunity next year. A lot of the younger players like Luaman Lual, Angus Clark. Elijah Sardis, of course, has another chance to prove himself. We'll be watching that game closely because he had the 19 possessions with about 60% game time. And this is not the first time he's had only 60% game time. He had only 60% game time earlier in the season against Adelaide. So I did mention in my previous video, is that a fitness thing? But that doesn't seem to make sense because of the he plays in the VFL. So certainly, if he gets extra midfield minutes, we'll look at his output closely. We expect May to continue. He kicked a goal last week and kicked 3 goals before that. So he is looking good. And we'll obviously continue to look at Blackiston, who played a little bit in the ruck, taking over from Goldstein last week when Goldstein was on the bench, and does actually show quite a bit as a defensive interceptor. And I think Blackiston has got a little bit better each week. He's not setting the world on fire. You wouldn't expect that as a 26-year-old mature age recruit coming into the game mid-season. But certainly he has been a little bit of a positive, I think, over the last month. Brad Scott did actually mention that we were lacking in synergy. And whilst I think that's true, we were lacking in synergy, it's not really much of an excuse because we played with plenty of synergy the week before against the Gold Coast, where for the first 3 quarters we were in with a chance to win that game before we fell away in the last. So, look, hopefully that, we can improve on that aspect this week, because I don't necessarily agree that lack of synergy, whilst it's true, how can it be there one week and not the other? But it is true that a lot of players are out, and it's very, very difficult when you have so many players unavailable and a lot of changes coming in each week to have that consistent performance. I think that's probably what he's getting at. So what is my prediction for this game? Well, I'm picking GWS by 35 points. I sort of think that they do want a big win. I think they'll be going all out to win this by as big a margin as they possibly can. But I do think we'll see an improved performance. I know we're undermanned, but we do tend to play better under the roof. I don't think we're going to see 4 goals again or anything like that. I think you'll probably see a game somewhat similar to the game against Gold Coast, where we'll be in the game for a large portion of the game. We might even be in the game at half time. But at the end of the day, the greater talent level of the GWS players will come to the fore and they will run away with probably a 5 or 6 goal win. But I would definitely expect, given the, well, let's face it, embarrassing performance last week, I would definitely expect a better performance for at least a half or 3 quarters. I just don't think that we can go with their talent level for a full 4 quarters. So what do you guys think? What do you think the margin will be in this game? Does anyone think Essendon can win the game? You never know. The bookmakers say that GWS are $1.10. That equates to about a 90% chance of winning. Well, 90% chance isn't 100. Is there anyone that thinks we can win the game? I don't think we can. I wouldn't bet my life on it or anything. But I suspect that it will be a 5-goal win or so to GWS. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I always read all the comments. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. And as always, go Bombers.